Today is going to be a good one because we're going to mix bass guitar. I know that a lot of people struggle with mixing bass, and this is why I want to do this type of video. Now, there are several ways we can use to mix bass, and there's no right or wrong technique to use. It all depends on the song you're mixing. And the technique I'm going to show you is a very cool one, especially if you want to get a very nice fat bass sound that cuts through the mix. Let's check it out. Hey, what's up, my friend? Chris Selim here from Mixdown Online. Now, without further ado, let's jump right in. Let's go in Cubase and start mixing bass. Okay, so let's have a quick listen to what we're going to work on today. Okay, so this is just a bass recorded straight into a preamp, right into Cubase without any amp. So it's a pure bass line sound that is going to work very, very well. It's actually what I usually work with when mixing a song or recording a song. I always record the bass with a line input. And if I have the chance, I'm going to also record a bass signal, by miking a bass amp. But in this mix, I only have the bass line signal to work with, which is okay, because I can actually mix the bass with that one channel only, and this is not going to be a problem. But I just want to do something a bit different this time around, and this is what I want to show you today. So what I did to begin with was to duplicate this bass line recording, okay? So I have two channels of the same performance, same sound, same everything. But on the second one, I'm actually going to tweak a few things to make it sound a bit different. So the first thing I'm doing here is to add a bass amp, a virtual bass amp. That sounds pretty good, and this one is actually a very good one from Brainworks, but you can use any bass amp emulation plugin that you have in your possession. Next, what I'm doing is to add a high-pass filter. And I'm actually adding a high-pass filter up to 300 Hertz, and that number will depend on the recording I'm dealing with, okay, and the sound that I'm looking for. So this time around, 300 Hertz was good, and this is why I decided to go forward with this, and this is what we get if we only listen to what we have so far. Now I'm getting a mid-oriented bass sound. On top of that, I'm adding a sansamp, and this one is from Nembrini. And sansamp is a plugin that usually comes with Pro Tools and that a lot of people love using. And it's also a hardware unit that you can get. And this one comes from Nembrini Audio, and it's the PSA 1000, which works very well. So it's a good option if you want to put your hands on a sansamp plugin. So I added a bit of drive to this sound. Just to make it way more edgier, okay? Then a bit of compression, of course. Let's pop on an 1176. All right, I'm killing this one with the 1176. I like it. So that is going to be my sound for this duplicated channel. Next, I'm going to work on the line signal, this one here. So this channel, I'm going to call it bass amp, and the first one, the bass line channel. So now we're going to work on the bass line channel, and I'm going to start by adding an EQ, and I'm going to bass myself with the same filter that I used for the bass amp channel. So let's copy that over. I'm going to open it, and then I'm going to do the complete opposite of what I did on the bass amp EQ. So instead of a high-pass filter, it's going to be a low-pass filter. So let's go and select the high cut, and there you go. So it's the same frequency cutoff, same slope also, which is 24 dB per octave. It might look a bit drastic for a slope, but it does work very well. And this is something that I always try out. I'm going to start with a 12 dB per octave, 24. I can even go a bit higher if I need to, but I'm always listening to the phase relationship between those two channels when I do so, especially due to the fact that I'm actually copying the same signal twice, okay? So I always check that on, but I also check it when I work with the bass amp recording on top of the line signal recording. So I don't make any exception to the rule. But the 24 dB per octave slope works very well. So then let's add some compression. the 1176 one more time. And I'm gonna add a bit more bass to the signal. So nothing else than Rbass. You can use an EQ also if you just want to boost some bass frequencies. And I'm actually setting that up to 75 Hertz, but I just love working with Rbass. Adds a lot of fat. But I'm gonna add also at the end of the chain just a small high-pass filter to around 42 or 40 Hertz or so. And I can actually make my cut to, a 12 dB per octave cut is going to do the trick. I'm going to leave it this way, and this is what I'm going to end up with. And if I blend the bass amp signal, now that's pretty cool. I have the fatness of the bass sound, and I also have that edginess that I get from that distorted bass amp signal. That is pretty cool. Now, something that I always do, okay, and this is something very important when you do this type of thing, is to check the phase relationship between those two channels, just in case something happens. Okay, so that's why I'm going to just click on the phase button on top and listen to check if it's going to sound fatter or thinner. Yeah, I'm kind of losing some stuff when I switch the phase up, So let's listen to the context of the mix because, this is what's important in the end. That's pretty cool, and then it's a matter of balance. And the cool thing about this technique is that you have full control over the low-end part of your bass sound and the higher part or the edgier part of your bass signal, and you can balance that out. It's like EQing your bass sound with your faders, which is pretty cool, and nothing stops you on adding some automation, when you go, for example, from a verse to a chorus, you want to make that chorus a bit more edgier, you want that bass to cut through the mix a bit more, you can just bring up that bass amp channel in that case, So this is the bass mixing technique that I want to share with you. Check it out, try it out on your own, but again, there's not only one bass mixing technique out there, but this is one of them, and it's actually one that I like to work with on some of my mixes. So, hope that was helpful. If so, share, like, and subscribe, and leave your comments also. I want to know what is your favorite bass mixing technique that you do on your side when you mix bass guitar on your music. Again, write everything down below. Until next time, take care and see you.